Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Vandy. We're back at another Card Fight Vanguard deck performance. If you enjoyed, don't like, comment, subscribe, and don't pay attention. Let's get started, sorry. Today we have Lyrical Monasterio, Wilista, Set 2. I am so glad to be doing this one. I know I just shat on Lornal. I'm not recording this right after Lornal, but I can vaguely remember what I said about Lornal. I liked Wilista a lot back in set 1. My main problem with it, though, is that it just kept killing itself. To use the deck, you actively had to kill itself, and it had, 2 great 3 turns to live and win, and if you didn't do it in that time span, you pretty much lost, because Wilista just mills 5. And unlike Eugene, they don't go to Soul. So, now that we have set 2, we got some really nice cards for Wilista, and I'm glad by them, and they're really fun to play with, so let's go ahead and get started. First up, we have a starter in Brilliance in the Ore, Wilista. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base. Auto and short upon if you win second, draw a card. Nothing too special about it, standard starter, but I did, like the feeling, the dancing it gives it, and it's also just my favorite looking Wilista card, so cool on that. Our over trigger today will be Greatest Star Esteranza. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k base. Over trigger, and then over trigger in your deck. When we reveal it as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of yours, gets plus 1 mana for the turn. And if you reveal it during draft check, activate additional effect, which is during the fight, you get during your turn all your breakers at plus 10. So when you check this, and in old Wilista, you would never check this unless you were really lucky, because once more, mill 5, you would essentially win the game, anyone I've seen draft check the Lyrical Monasterio over trigger typically wins the game, either that same turn or the next turn. So the opponent basically has a countdown of when they're able to win. The only deck I've seen being able to survive are very limited, and the only one from Lyrical Monasterio I can see being able to survive this is Celestials, just because I've seen Celestials gather PG so quickly. But either way, the over trigger is really good. I'm not going to defend Obari here. Normally I would, but this is better than Obari, and I'm pretty sure it might be cheaper than Obari. I don't know. I remember it was cheaper at some point than Obari was. So yeah, or Tenzo's over trigger. It's also the over trigger because it's a human, and Willis is human. Now our normal triggers. I don't have an excuse this time, besides the fact I was too lazy to put the cards on here. So don't be me. Use the effect triggers, but I'm too lazy to put the effect triggers on because we don't have human triggers. So first up, we have 3 copies of Habitual, Truant, Pelageya. We just have 7 fronts. Make one of them preferably this. Keep this one, but change this to the front with the skill. But run 7 fronts, because we all know, even with the new cards, they're not unsusceptible to decking out. Just run fronts. They can make a board with Wilista skill. The draws will only kill you faster, so yeah, 7 fronts. 4 crit, make this the mermaid crit if you feel like it. I'm never going to use it in this deck, especially because I'm never going to call cards from hand except for the early game. So 4 Glutton Nora. I say that, and yet I'm flashbacking to a moment an hour ago where I was playing a game and I actively grade 1 rushed someone in the way that Kazuma did in the anime, but that's not important. Anyways, 4 crit just to add a little bit of pressure to the Vanguard attacks, and 4 heals and stuff like Pruel. Run any heal you want, but I feel a personal connection to this heal because out of all the Lyrical Monasterio heals, minus the one from Lorno, this is the one heal that doesn't hate me, so 4 of. And now onto our, main deck, kind of-ish. But the point is, we're going to finish with the grade 0s because these are our main things. 4 copies of Truehearted Ruby, grade 0, no skill, play it by counterblasting, no additional things intercept, stuff like that. Normal order. Play it by counterblasting 1, draw 2, choose a card from hand, discard, and put it to soul. So this is I'm gonna say it's our main gem. It's not the gem you use to get a board, but if I'm being honest with you, I argue this is the better gem out of the 2, just because that draw 2 is really nice. And plus, when you look at Everlasting Sapphire and Truehearted Ruby, which one gets played outside of Wilista more, it is guaranteed to leave this one, so 4 of. 4 of Everlasting Sapphire, grade 0, normal order as well. Choose one of you, it gets plus 5k for the turn, and you shove it to soul. So both of them have the shove to soul abilities because you got a soul blast for Wilista, so that's really nice. I prefer this one, I just like to draw 2 more, but either way, I think you should run them at 4, because even though we now have cards that can send the gems back, you still want to be able to see them, so yeah, 4 of each. Grade 1 time. 2 copies of Shiny Coat Marucia. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. By the way, this is another case where this is a deck that I have so many cards I want to run in it, but I have so little space, so I have to be very particular about it. So unfortunately, I can't run this at the amount I want, but either way, continuous rearguard during your turn. If your drop has 3 or more gem cards, gets plus 5k for the turn. Gets plus 5k during your turn. So that's really good. You know, it's really easy to hit 3 gems and drop unless you are getting gem starved, like I was yesterday, where I literally damage checked 2 Truehearted Rubies in the early game, and then Everlasting Sapphire just stayed at the bottom of the deck for the entirety of the game. But you know, in the most scenarios where that doesn't happen to you, it's an easy 5k, and it's just helpful because with the old grade 1 I was running, yeah, it did save me last night. I mean, I still lost, but yeah, it did save me last night and helped me make an epic comeback, but it killed me so many more times than the one time it helped me, so I unfortunately had to cut it. It's the one that where when you use Sapphire, you draw a card. The one time it helped me, and it did an amazing thing, but every other time it has been the reason why I died, so I'm not going to use it. 2 copies of Marucia, though, because the 5k is really helpful, and it can be good in a deck that has limited time to kill someone. 3 copies of Mini Live After School Katina, grade 1 boost 5k shield at K base, auto when it's placed on rearguard circle, soul boss 1, discard a card, choose a gem from your drop zone, add it to hand. Basically, use your gems more, which is really nice because it can get them back to soul, and it can just like loop discards, or you can just soul blast a gem, discard a card, and then just get that gem right back, just so you can use its skill, even if you're not going to use Wilista with it. So either way, Katina's really good. 4 of the PG Musical Committee Nicolene, grade 1 boost, 0 shield, 6k base, continue sentinel, you have 4 sentinels in your deck, and auto was placed on guard circle, choose one of your units, it cannot be attended to battle, and if your hand has 2 or more cards, choose a card from hand, discard it. Nothing too special about this PG. If you don't know what that means, it basically means when it's placed on guard circle, if it and only one of the cards in your hand, you don't have to discard a card, which is really nice. That means you can be as aggressive as you want in this deck. And continue, you have to be as aggressive as possible in the early game to make sure that the late game you're not getting screwed over in. Yeah, this is one of the times where the PG comes in helpful. And yet, because of the spacing, I have been tempted to remove the PG. I have done this in 2 other decks so far. One of them it worked really well in, and one of them it would only screw me over in on the second grade 3, or like second or third grade 3 turn, depending on what deck I was playing against. So I'm kind of tempted to do it here, because I know exactly what I would replace it with, but not really something I want to try, because it might get me screwed over. Either way, 4 copies of Nicolene, because you need that PG. If we didn't have Nicolene, I would say tech this up to 4, tech this up to 3, and then put 2 copies of the thing that says when you use Sapphire, draw 1, because she still is helpful. She has earned part of my respect, but not enough of it. 4 of Nicolene. And then our last grade 1 is the grade 1 of the ride line, Proof of Effort Wilista. We only play 1 copy in the ride deck, none in the main deck. Grade 1 boost 5k shield, 8k base. Auto when it's rolled upon by anything, put a hand card to soul, search effort to 1 gem card, reveal it, put it to hand, shelf your deck. Really nice. She gets you soul, which this deck does not soul blast outside of the gems, but still it's nice that it gets you a soul for versatility with other ride lines, and it gets you a free gem. Typically you just search Truehearted Ruby so you can use it during your grade 2 ride, because the grade 2 ride benefits from it. But free gems, so if you have Truehearted Ruby, you get Sapphire. If you have Sapphire, you get Truehearted Ruby, or if you have both, get Truehearted Ruby, or if you have neither, just pick Truehearted Ruby, because that's arguably better than the other one. And auto rear, when you would play in order, which soul blast 1, and this unit gets plus 5 for the turn. So yeah, if you did run her in the main deck, she would definitely be getting power. Actually, no, you could play this in the main deck instead of the Sapphire one, because she would technically get more power. So, yeah, either way, Wilista is really nice. I prefer to run her at the 1 of in the ride deck, but if you wanted to put her in the main deck, I say do what I did earlier, get rid of the PG and shove her out 2. 1 of Wilista. On to grade 2s. 4 copies of Exchanging Site Feodora. This thing is amazing. I like its art. It's like so calming, so peaceful. I don't know why. When I look at it, I expect it to be a double rare with nice foiling, and then it's not a double rare, but I can just feel the glisten off it. I don't know. Grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base, auto rear guard circle once per turn. If you have a Vanguard Wilista in its card name, put a gem from your drop zone to bottom of deck, and this unit gets plus 5 for the turn. Really good. Like, it may be a once per turn, but first off, that's not a once per turn per name. It's a once per turn per copy, which means if you have 2 of them, you can just use it twice. But it's an easy 5k. It literally gets you your gems back. Wilista's main problem was that it decks that, like, I might not be a pro Wilista player. Hell, I'm not a pro player in general, but I'm 95% sure if you ask any Wilista player, their main problems that they would name about the deck would be, where was I going with this? Yeah, it would be power, or at least for me it's power. They would be power and decking out way too quickly. This fixes that problem, or technically it fixes both, but it more fixes the deck out problem, because I could tell you so many times I would have won with Wilista if I just had 1 more card in deck. Phew, this girl. Hard carries deck. 4 of. pick this up. It's really amazing. It's nice. Get you that gem back. Get you the 5k. 4 of. And that is our only actual grade 2 in the right deck. I mean the main deck. The only other grade 2 we have in the deck is 1 copy of Expanding World Wilista in the right deck, none in the main deck. Grade 2 Intercept 5k shield, 10k base. Auto Van once per turn. When you play a gem card, draw a card. Yeah, this is why you pick Truehearted Ruby. You ride, hopefully you have 1 counterblast. You ride this from ride deck. You use this skill, shove a hand card to soul, get Truehearted, counterblast 1, draw 2, discard a card, shove Ruby to soul, and then use this skill, draw a card. Easy. Easy 3 draws. Technically it's only 2, but easy 3 draws. And then continues Guard Circle. This unit gets plus 5k shield for every 2 gems and drop. This girl, so useful. Like, I know me and a couple of other people do definitely shit. I know at least I do. I'm pretty sure there are other people that do too. But I know a few people that shit on ride line skills because while the first skill is really good, like the Vanguard one, if they have a rear guard skill, it's only like some minuscule bullshit like, oh, it gets plus 2k when it swings. Like, okay. In certain decks like Bass of I will give it that point, but in other decks like, for example, Nirvana, yeah, no. Wilista here actually does something. Like, it benefits from the gimmick of the deck. Like, that's a lot of shield, and sometimes I do come into trouble when I'm fighting against, when I'm fighting with Wilista against, like, high power decks, to where Willista's shield ability would actually help me. So sometimes I do consider putting her in the main deck, but I never really have space for her. If you decide to put her in the main deck, put her in F2, because she can be useful, but I prefer none in the main deck just because, like, I need space for other cards. So one of in the right deck. And then we have grade 3s. 3 copies of Attentive Deep Love Ottilie. Grade 3, 200 Persona Right, 13k base. Auto rear, when you play Truehearted Ruby, if your Vanguard's Prismagica Wilista, it gets plus 10 for the turn, and you may play an additional order this turn. Increase the number of plays when activated. You would think that ability is once per turn, or named once per turn. It's not. You just need 1 copy of this, and you can play plus 10. But you know the funny thing is, that affects stacks. Or, to be more exact, I'm pretty sure that affects stacks. Because that means if you have 2 of these on the board, play 1, play 2 additional orders. Plus 10. Or technically plus 10 to each. So, you can just keep playing Truehearted Ruby, you can play 4 of them, this thing gets plus 40, and you can play 1 more order. From 1 copy. Yeah, this thing's good. It's also the way you can abuse the hell out of your orders. I'm gonna say you don't technically need this, because you could use it for more spacing, like I said, for more defenders, or like more consistency getters like this one. But I do like the fact that she can make my orders more useful and make me be able to play multiple orders a turn, and she's the highest gaining power card out of all of them, so that's why I run her. I run her at 3 for that reason. If you don't want to run her at 3, either run the gem searcher that can get it from when it's discarded from deck, can get a gem from either deck or drop zone, or run the suggestions I said earlier. So 3 of Bolette, though, in my opinion, because she's really good and she can help hit numbers and make the deck win faster. Then we have 3 copies of Scintillate Rays Ophelia. Grade 3, 200 Persona Right, 13k base. I just love this so much. Like, the pink hair flowing in the wind, the girl just standing, and like the background just feels so relaxing, and this little hair pointing up, I don't know why, that just like sells it for me. Like, if that's a unicorn horn, I don't think it is, but sure. But it's like, I don't know why, it just feels so good looking at this card. Either way, auto rear, at the end of the battle that your Prismagica Wilista on Vanguard attacked, perform all the following according to the cards you played or Soul Blast your Vanguard made this turn. If you played or Soul Blasted Truehearted Ruby this turn, you get plus 15, and if you played or Soul Blasted Everlasting Sapphire, counterblast 1, put a back or rear guard circle to the bottom of the deck and stand this unit and shuffle. So, get you back deck cards. It's only a counterblast, and guess how many cards in this deck counterblast? Here is the only other card that counterblast. So, in a deck of only 2 counterblasters, this is one of them. She can get you a restand, she can send you a unit back to deck, and she can get 15. I've never once had a problem getting Truehearted Ruby to soul. Even yesterday when I had that game where I damage checked 2 Truehearted Rubies back to back on first turn when my opponent attacked me, I was still able to keep a Truehearted Ruby and soul the entirety of the game without tryharding. And Everlasting Sapphire somehow is always the problem for me. I don't understand why, but abilities to stand, plus 15, and gets you the ability of survivability. Ophelia is amazing grade 3, and I would run her at 4, but at the same time, I don't think you need to run her at 4, because when Wilista can just search top 5 and you would get this anyways, it's not worth running at 4. But either way, amazing grade 3, 3 of. And then finally, our last grade 3 and our main grade 3 and the last card in the deck. 4 copies, 3 in the main deck, 1 in the ride deck, of Prismagica Wilista. I feel like that's the only time I've ever said that right, and I'm probably still wrong. Grade 3 200 persona rate, 13k base. I like this art's background. I don't like Wilista herself. Like, that's the one deterrent thing from Wilista for me. I just don't like how she looks. But I love this, or at least this one in particular. But I love this background. It feels so fitting for, like, the gems. It makes her feel fancy. Anyways, she has 2 skills. Active Vanguard Circle, Soul Blast, 1 Truehearted Ruby. You get until end of turn, it gets plus 15, and your opponent cannot intercept. So, not just for her battle, just for the entirety of the turn. And that's not once per turn, so you can Soul Blast 4 Truehearted Rubies and she gets plus 60. I have done that before, and your opponent can't intercept. Cool. By the way, I still lost that game when I did that, when I Soul Blast 4 Rubies, just because I couldn't win. That was just a last-ditch effort to flex, but it was funny. And then Active Vanguard Circle, also not once per turn. Soul Blast 1 Everlasting Sapphire, look at top 5, call 2 units from, choose up to 2 unit cards, call into Rearguard Circle, open Rearguard Circles, discard the rest, and those units get plus 5 for the turn. Cool. So, mill 5, 2 of them get called, and those 2 get plus 5. Yeah, no matter what, like, even if you don't see anything of use, call them. Unless what is in your hand is 10 times better than the extra 5k, just call them, because Wilista decking out is not something plausible. Like, if you're Eugene player, you will somewhat understand this, because Eugene kind of does the same thing, except slightly better, because they actually go to Soul, and they don't gain power, though, so, yeah, you know, maybe just, unless your hand is objectively better, just call the units, because the 5k will help you. But either way, Wilster's really good. Like, she can lock down intercepts for a turn, and that's really good if you just keep using Ruby every turn, and she gets a lot of power out of it, too, and that does actually shut down people a lot. Like, intercepts are only just 5k? Like, okay, yeah, 5k intercepts. Do you think that doesn't matter a lot? No, it does. It definitely does. It is the sole reason why I almost beat so many decks with Wilista, but at the same time, it kept killing itself before I could do it. But it is the sole reason why I've been able to almost kill so many decks. And the ability to check top 5 and get 2 units out of it and get their plus 5 out of it, still good, even if it makes you mill 5. Either way, Wilista's really nice. So, 3 of them in the main deck, 1 of them in the ride deck, because she can get you a board, she can get you power. And that's it for the deck, so I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, like, this is genuinely one of my favorite decks, and I remember a YouTube comment that I made a few weeks ago where I literally said, God damn it, what's with me and picking decks that have limited deck space so I can't play cards I want over cards I need? Yeah, this is one of them. I mean, it's such a fun deck to play. Like, you can get a board really easily, you get actually decent power out of it, and in some cases, if you build your entire deck around it, you get a fuck ton of power out of it. The only downside is, well, this is her own worst enemy. Like, she makes you deck out so quickly. Like, normally when I was using Eugene, I would use Eugene multiple times. Like, normally I'm supposed to use Eugene once a game, if that twice. I would use it every turn I could. Like, that was how I played Eugene. Well, even when I only play it once or twice a game, I still deck out and lose from it. Now, I don't lose immediately. I still could lose, but I don't lose immediately. I still get good power out of it, but the deck feels so much more comfortable. It feels like it knows what it's doing now. Like, before it was kind of just stabbing itself in the sword while hoping to hit the opponent while it's blindfolded. Now, it is still stabbing itself with the sword, but now it's not blindfolded, so it has an accurate hit. So, yeah, this deck is fun, and I love playing it. So if you guys enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, donate to the Patreon, join Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you all next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.